Welcome back to the Lost Test channel. My name is Anton Bieltsin and I'm a criminal defense attorney here in the Southern District of California. In the last week's video, I briefly mentioned an exception to the warrant requirement called exigent circumstances. And in this video, I will further define what exigent circumstances mean. We have a case where an individual has committed or allegedly committed a misdemeanor. He flees from the police and the officer follows him into his house without a warrant. Under the exception, exigent circumstances or hot pursuit. The question becomes whether the police can actually enter your home without a warrant in misdemeanor type cases. Because on this channel, we'll learn about criminal defense and the law, let's discuss this case and understand how exigent circumstances work. The case we'll be discussing today is Lange versus California, a 2021 case from the Supreme Court. As always, I will first discuss the facts with you and then we'll follow with the law. So here's what happened. We have Mr. Lange who's driving with loud music, windows down, and honking his horn. You can basically say he was asking to be pulled over.
Evil headhunter on a skull hog is cruising for trouble.
When he passes by the highway patrol, the CHP starts following him. CHP is the California Highway Patrol. Eventually, the officer turns his overhead lights on to pull Mr. Lange over. Instead of pulling over, Mr. Lange drives another 100 feet, or roughly 4 seconds, and turns into his own driveway and into the garage. Now, he enters the garage, but the officer follows. Before the door can close on the garage, the officer walks into the private residence inside the garage, which is attached to the home. He then conducts field sobriety tests and finds out that Mr. Lange has a blood alcohol level 3 times the legal limit. So obviously Mr. Lange gets a DUI, driving under the influence. Now in court, he tries to suppress the evidence, the BAC level, the blood alcohol level, and the field sobriety tests under the theory of fruits of the poisonous tree doctrine. The idea is that if the evidence was derived after an illegal search under the Fourth Amendment, that evidence should be thrown out of court in the district level. Now, in this situation, he says that it needs to be thrown out because the officer did not have a warrant to enter his residence. So let's move on to the law, which I kind of already did. As a reminder, the Fourth Amendment protects you against unreasonable searches and seizures, meaning that officers, generally speaking, need to have a warrant in order to search or seize you. In this situation, the Fourth Amendment, of course, has the word reasonableness in it. The test is whether the search is reasonable. Of course, the home gets the highest protection under the Constitution. It is explicitly enumerated in the Fourth Amendment, so we know the Founding Fathers thought highly of the home. We often hear retrieving into your castle doctrine. The idea is that you should have the highest level of privacy in your own home. And in this situation, the officer entered that private residence. But of course, given that the searches have to be reasonable, there are exceptions to the rule. Over the years, the Supreme Court has defined a number of exceptions to the warrant requirement. One of them is called exigent circumstances.
RoboCop, part man, part robot, all cop.
Drop it!
RoboCop and the Ultra Police, each sold separately. The only cops with rapid repeat cap firing.
Evil headhunter on a skull hog is cruising for trouble. RoboCop in his armored RoboCopter takes off after him. Fire robo-missile. We'll give you a lift to jail.
You put RoboCopter together. RoboCop vehicles and figures with RoboCaps, each sold separately.
The idea behind exigent circumstances is that in certain situations, the officers simply do not have enough time to get a warrant. So as long as they have probable cause, they can enter the residence without a warrant under this exception. Over the years, the Supreme Court has defined what are those situations that we're really talking about. Usually, if there's an emergency to assist an injured occupant, the police can enter without a warrant. Or if they want to protect an occupant from an imminent injury, or to ensure their own safety, to prevent imminent destruction of evidence, meaning that if the officers know that the individual inside will be dumping the drugs down the toilet, they can enter the home without a warrant as long as they have probable cause. And finally, to prevent a suspect from escape. Now, this is the one we'll be focusing on. In this situation, the government argues that they have an individual, Mr. Lange, who's escaping from the highway patrol. And we know from 1976, and really even before that, under the common law, that if somebody has committed a felony and the officers are now in hot pursuit of that individual, under United States versus Santana, the officers can enter the home and arrest an individual without a warrant. The fact that the person is fleeing and the fact that there is a hot pursuit gives enough reason and enough justification for the officers to enter a home without a warrant under the exigent circumstances exception. But here we have something different. The Supreme Court has explained to us this year in 2021 that misdemeanors are different than felonies. Of course we know that. Misdemeanors are usually defined by crimes where an individual faces a maximum of 1 year in prison, and usually it's local time. Now, because this is a misdemeanor type case, the Supreme Court says that misdemeanors run the gamut of seriousness, meaning that misdemeanors are so different by their own nature. In California, we can have certain assaults that are misdemeanors, but we can also have traffic offenses or walking the street on a red light as a pedestrian, jaywalking. Both of those will be misdemeanors. Clearly, one is more serious than the other, but we can mostly say that all misdemeanors are mostly less serious than felonies because they'll have less time in jail that the person will be facing. Because of that, the Supreme Court says that felonies do not get the same bright line rule that the felonies do, where the officers can always enter the home because the individual can't prevent an arrest simply by retrieving into his own home. Misdemeanors is different. The Supreme Court says that it's still going to be a case-by-case justification, meaning that we have to look at the nature of the crime, the nature of the flight, and the surrounding facts. In this situation, Mr. Lange was running away from the police after committing what? Having loud music? That is a misdemeanor. That is not a felony. So unlike what the government says, exigent circumstances may apply, but the lower court has to look at the right standard. They can't simply say that because the officers were in hot pursuit, they can automatically enter the home. No, in this situation, it is very well that the officers needed to have a warrant before they can enter the home, because Mr. Lange only committed a misdemeanor by fleeing from the police. Hopefully you now understand how exigent circumstances work, the difference between having a felony versus a misdemeanor that's being alleged, and how the exception works. If you enjoyed this video, please click like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button so next time I post, you'll be first to know. And if you'd like to purchase one of these t-shirts that say "Do not arrest this person," go to my website. What are you waiting for? Get one.